Back in 2015, the United Nations made public 17 global goals to end poverty and hunger, increase economic opportunity, and promote gender equity by 2030. Those goals were extremely ambitious, and to help world leaders get there, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation created and funded a so-called Goal Keepers project. This week, it pledged another $1.2 billion toward that. But the foundation also reported that the world has fallen far short in its commitments. I spoke this week with Melinda French Gates, and for the record, the foundation is a funder of the NewsHour. Melinda French Gates, thank you very much for joining us. This report that you've issued this year, when you look at it, I have to say it's pretty discouraging. The foundation acknowledging that 7 years into setting these goals with regard to poverty, malnutrition, health care, that the world, and I'm reading it, is on track to achieve almost none of them. What happened?
Well, we were making huge progress as a world pre-COVID. So progress on poverty, malaria, childhood deaths. But then COVID happened, and it really set the world back, both from the health shocks and the economic scarring that's there because of what happened to the world economy.
Is that the whole explanation?
Well, it's not the whole explanation, particularly on the one related to gender. As I write about in the report, on gender, the disease doesn't care about its biology. It doesn't really care about what gender you are. However, we had so much inequality going on beforehand that it just exacerbated those problems. Like, for instance, childcare. It was right here in our face during the pandemic. Women couldn't work. The ones who could work online, some could, but many couldn't because of childcare. And it was really, really tough.
In the report, you discuss some new approaches that you argue need to be taken. I mean, can you explain in a nutshell what that would be? Because you all are deeply into these issues.
We always learn, and you learn what can work better. I think what we've learned on gender is, the world has been talking for a long time about empowerment of women. No, we need to really make sure women are in seats of power. We need to stop working on the symptoms and work on the root causes. The root causes have a lot to do with what norms in society, but if and when we get women to the very tops of corporations, the tops of parliaments, they make different policies. They set different agendas than men set, and so we've got to work on those types of issues.
What kinds of different policies would you say women would move on?
For instance, in Rwanda, 60% of the parliament is women. They passed, they're a low-income country, they passed paid family medical leave. In the United States, we still have no paid family medical leave. That's a tragedy when most dual income families will tell you that both are working, and if they have children, it is very hard right now to find affordable childcare. Much less a woman who lives in a remote rural setting, if she wants to go run her vegetable stall, she's still trying to find, where do I put my children, right? It's difficult.
So how do you make that happen? I mean, this is something we've been talking about, it seems to me, for years and years. How do you make it happen?
You get enough people in the House and enough people in the Senate who believe in this, and you pass the right policy. And it can be done in the United States. It's been done in almost every other high-income country in the world, and many middle-income and several low-income countries. It's just time something like that passes.
That's something we've talked about for a long time. I mean, what was it? 1992 was supposed to be the year of the woman in American politics. Here we are. It's 2022. Women are, 28% of the House and Senate. People are looking for solutions. What's the solution?
The solution is to fund more women's political campaigns and to help deal with the harassment that happens when a woman goes through a political election. That's in the U.S., I would say. That's one of many things we can do. But if you talk about around the world, we also need to look at not just putting cash in the hands of women, which was done during the pandemic. Thank God cash was put out into societies, low, middle, and high income. But we have to get it into the hands of women and into a digital bank account, because when you do that, she has full decision-making authority over the money. She can decide when it's spent, how it's spent, whether it's saved. She can build credit. So we need to help women get along much faster on this curve to actually having true power in their households and in society.
In many of these developing countries especially, do you not still have cultural, religious tradition that requires that the husband, the man of the family, be on board before a woman does something like that.
But women will also tell you that once they get a bank account and once they start to have a little bit of money, things change in the household with their husband, because the husband is very interested in having that income for the family. So his view of her changes, her view of herself changes. If it's in India, her view of her mother-in-law changes. So there are absolutely different cultural norms, tricky ones in different countries. But I would also say, we have cultural norms in the United States. We still have bias in the United States about having women in positions of power. So we have to look at those cultural issues around the world and work in very place-based ways to make and create change. And we can.
And in terms of the United States and electing more women to Congress, we've looked at this. I mean, money is part of it, but it's also many women reluctant to step into this very contentious line of work, and especially now when our politics can be, frankly, just so raw and ugly.
It's true. It's difficult times, but I also know that women are stepping up, and women can also decide they're going to vote. And we are seeing record numbers of women signing up to vote in this upcoming midterm election. I don't think that's any surprise. So there are lots of ways you can stand up in our society and use your voice and use your power and your decision-making authority to change things.
Last question about the Gates Foundation. $53 billion, I think, is right. In assets. You have an enormous potential ability there to make a difference. When the foundation was started, it was you, it was Bill Gates, the two of you were married, you're no longer married. How is that working? I mean, are you going to be able to continue to do the kinds of work that you've done in the past?
Well, we've had the institution now for over 22 years. My values are baked into that institution. We've been doing this work for a long time. I would say, the good news is even during the difficult times behind the scenes, we showed up and did our best. And I know that I have this goal of showing up and doing my best every single day, and I still am. So given that we could work even when times were difficult, and we've been working well together even during the pandemic in the last year, I don't expect anything to change about that.
Melinda French Gates, we thank you very much.
Thanks, Judy.